Well, Boris Johnson's plan to suspend the UK Parliament next week has brought widespread condemnation and questions about the legality and morality of the move. Let's speak to Sir Anthony Seldon, political historian, biographer and Vice-Chancellor of the University of Buckingham. Thanks very much for joining us on Good Morning Europe. Government ministers this morning have been insisting that this move to prorogue Parliament is lawful and proper. Do you agree?
Well, yes, I agree that you can make a very compelling case that it is lawful and that all other measures have been tried. Mrs May tried to get a deal through Parliament three times. Three times Parliament turned it down. Parliament hasn't come up with any clear solution itself, and therefore the government is pushing at press to get through a deal that it says is what the British public wants and voted for in the referendum and in the general election. So constitutional lawyers, no doubt, will argue, lawyers always do, about the precise legality, but I wouldn't say that this is illegal in any sense at all.
Is it morally right?
Well, again, people will always argue about what is morally right, particularly on an issue which in Britain is the biggest domestic issue since the Second World War. And people will decide really on morality and on legality, not on the basis of some objective criteria, but essentially, do they like what's being proposed or not? And then they will find legal and moral arguments to support. But certainly, the government can claim with real justification that it's only trying to do what Parliament has thrice frustrated by three times turning down Mrs May's deal, painstakingly negotiated with the European Union as the most the European Union would offer. It wouldn't accept that. Labour, even though it didn't agree with any of the fundamentals of it, still turned it down for political reasons. And the government can claim, therefore, that it's doing what is necessary to honour the deal, because you can't carry on endlessly going back to the EU and asking for yet more extensions. Britain's already had two extensions, and particularly not when Parliament is so unclear about what it would do. So, yes, there are moral arguments against this, but there's also a very strong moral argument for what the government's doing, justifying that by enacting the will of the people as enshrined in the referendum of 23rd of June 2016. Fascinating times. Extraordinary.
Well, yes, exactly. And we've seen a pretty strong reaction in the UK. What do you make about the nature of that response?
Well, a lot of people are getting very excited and making extreme statements on both sides. I mean, no issue since the Second World War has so divided Britain as the issue of the European Union, and now whether to come out and how to come out. So it's hardly surprising that there is so much heat in this country. There's a lot more heat than there is light at the moment. And I think that if we are ever to come out of the EU, then a sense of time pressure will be what will be required. It often is in big decisions, that it needs the pressure of time, perhaps for the EU to come up with some kind of deal that will be acceptable to the British Parliament, to British people, and put pressure on the British Parliament to accept this. But still very all open for grabs.
Sir Anthony Seldon, thanks very much for joining us on Good Morning Europe.